What's up, everyone? Welcome to another UFC Quick Picks here on the Mayo Media Network. We have UFC China on Saturday. It's like Friday at midnight for me officially. So Saturday morning, 12 a.m. PST, 3 a.m. Eastern. A lot of debuting fighters on this card. It's a really good one. Honestly, you should check out our content established to run, breaking down every single fight as best we can. Like I said, 10 new fighters on this card. Should make for a lot of interesting action, plus it being in the middle of the night. With that said, there's also next week off, so happy Thanksgiving to all you. And only a few more cards between now and the end of the year. So I'm here to give you my favorite cash game play, tournament play, salary play, and a matchup I like on the slate as always. And let's get right into it. My cash game play of the week is going to be Yan at 9K in the main event against Davison Figueiredo. Yan is the favorite here, minus 316 to win against Figueiredo. I do think the fight could be competitive, and I do always have issues with Yan starting slow, but 5 rounds to work with is a real benefit for any fighter in terms of cash games. It's going to increase the floor and the ceiling. And Yan still throws strikes at a really high rate, 5.14 significant strikes landed per minute, 1.73 takedowns landed per 15 as well. He's not like a great control grappler or anything, but he can occasionally mix takedowns he can dump fighters to the ground. He's landed 7 and 6 takedowns in a couple of his recent losses, actually, but I don't think wrestling's going to play a major factor in this fight. I think the winner of the striking exchanges will be the one who gets their hand raised. Figueiredo still is dangerous to a degree, but his metrics aren't great. 3.01 significant strikes landed per minute, 3.39 absorbed. He's just a low volume fighter. He's more moments dependent. Yan does start slow, but Yan builds very well throughout the fight. Should be the superior boxer here, just more technical. Both fighters have knockdown equity to a degree. Yan, I think, is the better wrestler. On DraftKings, though, 9K. You could pivot away from Yan in tournaments. Ming Yang, Olberg have upside as some examples. Maybe we'll talk about them later. But Yan is the safest of the bunch by far. Multiple ways to score, 5 rounds to work with. Still rates out very well. Plus 175 to win inside the distance. I like him a lot for cash games. Should be one of the safer options on this slate, all things considered. Next up, my tournament play of the week. I am going to go with Su Young Yu at 8.3K. He is minus 164 and kind of climbing against Gialisi. This is a road to the UFC final. I think it's going to be a good fight. Yu is a primary grappler, and that's why I like him. He looks like a really legit grappler, to be honest. A really good wrestler, a really good scrambler, and strong jiu-jitsu as well. I don't mind Gialisi as like a talent, and I think he's a decent wrestler as well, but I think the control dynamic is pretty heavily in favor of Yu here, to where if Gialisi is able to land a takedown, I don't think he can control Yu, where if Yu lands a takedown, I do think he can control Gialisi, get on top, take his back, and potentially find a finish. Inside distance lines are competitive here. Last I checked, both had plus 285 to win inside the distance. I mean, hopefully that contributes to not making Yu that popular, where he has some of the best wrestling equity on this slate. And Gialisi's been held down. He's been submitted in the past. Yu is probably the best grappler he's ever faced. So I like the fact that Yu attempts, 10 plus takedowns per fight. I like that he's very technical. I like his scrambling. I like his pacing. I like his cardio. And I think both of these fighters are going to want to grapple, and I just favor Yu to come out ahead in those exchanges at 8.3K. Perhaps not a guarantee to be optimal, but I do like the floor and ceiling combination of Yu given his aggressive wrestling style, and he's someone I would like to be overweight to the field on this week. Next up, my salary play of the week. Just because we've hit on some crazy underdogs in the last month, I'm going to give another one, and that's going to be Ozzy Diaz at 7.1K fighting Zhang Mingyang, who I really like. Zhang Mingyang. He's like a good, legit prospect, a big physical fighter, a decent boxer, a decent wrestler. There's a lot of parts about his game that I like, and I backed him pretty heavily in the past. And I picked Zhang Mingyang to win this fight by early knockout because I think that's the most likely outcome. But it's definitely worth noting that Zhang Mingyang has won each of his last 10 fights by first round finish because he's a kill or be killed fighter. And when he doesn't win by first round finish, he usually loses uh, very early. He's been knocked out cold multiple times. He's been submitted. And Ozzy Diaz, yes, is not as good as Zhang Mingyang. He's not as athletic. He's not as good of a wrestler. But he's a very capable boxer. He has fast hands. And I think there's a chance that these guys just choose to stand and trade, which is what Zhang Mingyang typically wants to do. And if they stand and trade, there's no reason Zhang Mingyang should be minus, pushing minus 350, especially as he's been knocked out cold. Diaz may have the superior cardio of the two. Diaz was knocked out on the Contender Series a while ago by Joe Pfeiffer, but that was down at 185, and Joe Pfeiffer is the legit prospect in the middleweight division. Diaz has since won a couple fights up at light heavyweight where this fight will be. I do think most likely Zhang wins, so I'm not going to get carried away on exposure to Diaz, but we're going to see a lot of ownership on Figueiredo. We're going to see a lot of ownership on Ricci, probably Tumen Demirel, who I think I will talk about next. But I think Diaz is pretty sneaky because this fight is very likely to end quickly. It's minus 260 under 1.5 rounds, minus 600 to end inside the distance. Zhang Mingyang does have the majority of win equity between the two, but I think Diaz is very live, and if he wins, it's going to come from an early knockout. So in large field tournaments especially, I like taking chances on Diaz for the upside, for the leverage, for the price at 7.1K. Finally, my matchup of the week, it is going to be Carlos Hernandez versus Naim Jargal, Tumen Demirel. Yes, easy to pronounce. Tumen Demirel is making his UFC debut, 8-0 professionally, coming out of the Mongolian regional scene. He is a killer. And by killer, I mean he is 10 out of 10 aggressive, wild, pushing for the finish quickly. Pretty much all of his wins are like instant. Quick knockouts, wild hands. He can take your back and choke you out as well. But a lot of those wins also come on the Mongolian regionals. And it's pretty clear to me that Tumen Demirel is fraudulent in the sense that technique's not there. He's swinging and missing, falling over. He can't wrestle defensively. He's not going to be winning minutes. His cardio sucks. So he's going to be very dependent on early finishes in the UFC. And that's kind of why I like this matchup, because if Tumen Demirel wins, it's going to come from a first round finish, almost certainly. Hernandez is just a much better boxer, technically, much better cardio, better wrestler, better jiu-jitsu, way more experienced, and I definitely favor Carlos Hernandez to win this fight. But with that said, Hernandez isn't like the best athlete, and he's not the best finisher. So I could still see Tumen Demirel overpowering him in the first couple of minutes, just throwing hammers, hurting Hernandez, or like jumping on the neck and choking him out. Very possible. And if that happens, Tumen Demirel is going to score very well at 7.6K. Let me pull up the inside distance lines. I think Tumen Demirel is plus 250 to win inside the distance, which is pretty strong for 7.6K. Hernandez has already been knocked out and submitted in the UFC, granted by much better competition than Tumen Demirel, but still the upside is certainly within Tumen Demirel's profile. And if Hernandez wins, I think there's a good chance it comes late. I think he can land takedowns here. I think he can hurt Tumen Demirel. I think he has submission upside. I don't think it's a guarantee for him to be optimal at 8.6K, but Tumen Demirel doesn't have defense in any regard, doesn't have cardio really at all. And whoever beats him is going to accrue points. So that's why I like this matchup. There's going to be a lot of exchanges. Good chance it ends inside the distance, despite it actually being line minus 140 to go the distance. I think both sides have real finishing equity. Tumen Demirel is probably going to be the more popular play of the two, but I don't mind Hernandez there at 8.6K, especially if he'll carry leverage against Tumen Demirel. That'll be my matchup of the week, and that's going to do it for this week's UFC Quick Picks. Thank you so much for the support. You can follow me on Twitter, Appley, TTPP. Again, just went 2 hours with my boy Gordo Gamble's breaking down every single fight on this slate in depth on ETR. Full written breakdowns available as well. Projections will come out tomorrow. Reminder, this card starts 12 a.m. Eastern on 12 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. So get your lineups in tomorrow on Friday. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone as well. We'll have next week off, and then we'll be back in early December. So thank you for the support. Best of luck. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.